The top Senate Republican on the Health Committee sent a letter to the White House related to the President's comments about the pandemic being over on 60 Minutes, saying there are contradictory policies in place. If that's the case, unoffset emergency funding, enforcement of vaccine mandates, continued federal emergency declarations, the White House have a response to that in terms of where policies currently stand?
So the President said, and he was very clear in his 60 Minutes interview, that COVID remains a problem, and we're fighting it. And we have to continue to make sure that we are fighting this once in a generation pandemic. And so here's the thing. What he believes is we can acknowledge that the massive amount of progress that we have made. Just think about where we were when this president walked into this administration, where, again, a response to this once-in-a-generation pandemic was mismanaged by the last administration. Now, if you look at today, 220 million people are fully vaccinated, and now we are in a place where it is a lot more manageable, where we know what works. There are tests, there are treatment, there are vaccine, as I just laid out. So we know what works. We know the tools that are out there to fight COVID. And for over 6 months, Congress has been made abundantly aware, as have all of you. You've heard us speak of this. You've heard from the experts. You've heard from our doctors of our need for the funding to ensure we have access to these tools and continue to have access to these tools. And for over 6 months, there have been new excuses for why they do not want to ensure that the U.S. remains on the front foot. Let's think about it. And Jake mentioned this about how we have to be prepared for the next generation of vaccines and treatments. We have to be prepared for the next potential pandemic, ensuring that we're leading the way when it comes to research, when it comes to development, when it comes to innovating, and keeping testing readily accessible. So ultimately, if we lose these things, we have to ask them, we have to ask Republicans, why didn't they act? And so that is how we're going to continue to move forward on this. We believe this COVID funding is incredibly important for how we move into the future in fighting pandemics. Okay.